Hello and welcome to Alexander Technique London. My name's Adrian and I'm a full-time teacher of the Alexander Technique. And today we're going to discuss the classic Alexander Technique lying down procedure known as sometimes semi-supine or constructive rest. I personally prefer constructive rest. It seems a little more obvious what it is we're trying to achieve. So this is probably a long time coming. I've not done one on this procedure before, even though it's probably one that's most well-known procedures within the Alexander Technique, and I was asked about it on another video the other week. And I think one of the reasons I hadn't is simply because I thought there were plenty of other videos on it, and I'd like to sort of try to add a little extra value. So as a proviso to me to make this worthwhile, add a bit of extra value, I shall give some alternatives as well, which we'll get to once I think we should at least cover the basics. So, it's not rocket science. It's literally lying down. But what we do is we rest our head on, in this case, yoga blocks and books just as fine. And I'll show you. We just lie down here. We have our feet flat on the table or floor. I just happen to be on my treatment table. Knees towards the ceiling. Now what we want is a general coordination and orientation of what we say in the Alexander Technique of the head going forward and up. Now, that's something we normally say when we're stood up or sat up. So up in this case, because I'm lying down, will just be the length of my spine. So I want a sense of releasing up the length of my spine, and the forward is a rotation forward over the atlanto-occipital joint, which is through here. If you sort of push your fingers through your ear, underneath your earlobe there, that's the axis of your atlanto-occipital joint. That's where your skull meets your spine. It's kind of higher than a lot of people realise actually. It's kind of level with the underside of your nose. And when we're upright, it actually wants to balance that way. So while we're lying down, we want to keep that coordination. So we encourage that length at the back of the neck. Now the height of the books is very debatable, and it very much depends on the curvature of your upper spine. So if you've got a strong curve, you're going to want more support there. But even if you don't, it's actually okay to go higher with the support. If I grab this book, put that under there as well, that's perfectly comfortable for me as well. And then I now get that nice, sort of encourages a bit of a stretch up the back of the neck. That forward bit, if you like, of the head forward and up. I know it might look like a bit of a head forward posture, but you know, I'm relaxed, I'm lying down, I'm well supported, I'm not using any muscular effort or anything. It's perfectly acceptable. And it's a nice way to get that little added stretch, or as I like to call it, a release into a direction. It's offering a direction to let go into. Now what you don't want is to be too low, have too little support. So if I was to take all this out, that starts to put strain on my neck. I have a reasonably flat upper back, coincidentally. I can just about tolerate this. I prefer not to by a long shot. Just an inch, I think that's about an inch, just under an inch thickness there, is enough for me. Now that feels good for me. I'm also perfectly happy with them higher, and because I've often used two books, or yoga blocks in this case, with my clients, and they happen to be sat on my table, if I get on it for a little constructive rest, I generally just use both anyway. And this is, you know, it's very, very comfortable and supported. Now, one of the problems we have when we do constructive rest is we've probably come from something busy beforehand, and we go about it in a kind of rushed way. I've got to do my constructive rest, I've got to achieve something, and you lie down, and then you're thinking about the argument you had earlier, your shopping list, you know, endless things of busy mind. And we really want to calm the nervous system down. Because of psychophysicality, a calm nervous system is going to lead to more relaxed muscles. So we don't deal with the muscles directly, we do it through the quality of the nervous system. Now to help with that and make you feel busy, if you like, give your ego a scratch, make you feel like you're doing something, because you know we all like to feel like we're doing something, we're doing it correctly. And you really don't want that kind of thinking in this work and doing this procedure. It's more of an exploration and an opportunity. It's not something you do correctly. But the mind wants to. We're all like that. The classic phrase is end gaining in the Alexander technique, trying to achieve an end result without really considering the process. So to help the process along, I recommend doing some nice long out breaths. Now, I've actually done a video on those out breaths before, which I'll post in the description below. But the nice thing about them is long out breaths down-regulate you. They help you calm down and quieten down. They also scratch that itch of you feeling like you should be doing something. So it gives your mind something proactive to do for a couple of minutes. So you can lie here and just do a nice long out breath, and then release. Now, you don't have to do it so obvious as that. It's just it's showing up on camera. Nice long out breath, breathe as far out as you can, and let go, and let the in-breath do you. You don't need to breathe in, you will be breathed in. And then once you find yourself having breathed all the way in, it turns itself around into an out-breath, you can join into a nice long out-breath. And just repeat. And you can do that, say, for a minute or two. And that will just help you feel busy, feel like you're doing something, you're achieving something. And after a while, you'll just find yourself down-regulated, and you'll probably get a bit bored and fed up of doing the long out-breaths. And by then, you're relaxed and quiet enough to just lie here and enjoy the experience of letting go and giving yourself permission to stop, which is just the hardest thing to do. It really is. It's very much easier to do in the presence of someone else because you give each other permission. In lessons, whether they're my online lessons or if they're in person, the fact that I'm there with you makes you feel like, oh, it's okay just to lie here and do nothing. But when you're on your own, we find that kind of difficult psychologically. So you're just going to have to try to work on that. So one of the things you need to work on, your ability to stop and give yourself permission to do so. And then you just lie here for a good 15, 20 minutes if you can. Even if it's only 10 minutes, it's better than nothing. And you look just at release into length, head forward and up as we say. Nice sense of width of your back on the table, your knees flowing away towards the ceiling, a nice sense of maybe full contact with your feet on the table. And it's just a matter of waiting really until you feel something's changed, just as it would if you were to crash out on the sofa unconstructively. And after 20 minutes you probably feel like, oh, I feel better for that. It's been a busy day, we've had a bit of a rest on the sofa, and you feel like, okay, I feel better now. And you'll get an instinctive feeling lying here like this. But it's more constructive. Your postural reflex muscles will have a better chance to unwind. You get a nice sense of width. You can have a desire to, you can have directions that you wish to release into. You can remind yourself, you can say, yes, I want to release head forward and up. I want to release into width, It could be nice, one simple alternative, instead of hands on your torso, which I am at the moment, mostly because I'm on a table. If I'm on the floor, I really like to have my arms out, and that really encourages a nice sense of width across the front of the chest, which can undo a lot of that shoulder forward from being, say, on a computer or anything. Another thing you can do is maybe raise your hands to the ceiling, but let the weight of your arms push your shoulder blades into the table. So you get a nice sense of your arms staying back in the shoulder blades, your shoulder blades stay back, and realise how much space you've got in front of you without having to round the shoulders forward. Now that was an interesting turn of phrase, by the way, let the weight of your arms push your shoulder blades into the table. It's a very Newtonian phrase, and it's kind of incorrect, to be perfectly honest. I don't want to get into that, but if I link below into my video on gravity, I've got an article on that as well. Do have a look into that. It's actually more interesting than you think. But actually gravity supports us in very useful ways, rather than just simply dragging us down. But just for colloquialism of English language, that feeling your shoulder blades into the table, and you could be holding, say, a mobile phone, and you realise you can still have width here, you can still stay back. if, for example, I push my hands as far forward as they will go, you realise it's not actually that far. So why bother rounding my shoulders forward? I'm not actually getting that much extra use out of my arms. So might as well stay back. When we're upright, one of the best ways for them to stay back is keeping that width across the front. So always encouraging width. Now let's just say you are a computer user, or maybe play the piano or another instrument, use your hands a lot. If you bring your fingertips together, you can have a nice sense of your arms coming out of your torso. So your arms extrude out of your torso, they're not just attached to the sides. Your chest is your arms, your whole back is your arms. So if you go fingertip to fingertip, you can have a sense of an inside circle and an outside circle. And the inside circle includes the chest, obviously. You want a nice, large, expansive circle there, and one around the back, around the upper back. So the outer circle is a nice, expansive circle, and it's just a nice sense of your arms extruding out of your back, with the shoulders staying nicely back, and a nice sense of width across the torso. That's just something you can play with. So, how's about some alternatives? Now, one thing that happens was kind of related. When I first started, I really struggled in my first ever Alexander lessons to keep my legs up. They always wanted to flop over. They don't anymore. I don't even remember when that stopped happening. I just remember many years ago lying down and go, oh, my legs aren't falling over. You may or may not find that's the case for you. It certainly started that way for me. And the other problem is some people find lying like this, their lower back gets a bit achy. So an alternative, if I just grab the stool I've got here, you can use, obviously use a stool like I am here. It's just for the purposes of this video. You can use a sofa or your bed or a chair, and you just rest your calves, your lower legs, on it. And that really allows you to release the hips and the lower back a bit better. So if you are struggling with your lower back, it can be nice to lie like this. And if you're struggling with your legs flopping about. Because if they're flopping about, you're probably going to try to keep them up, and that's just going to add tension into the hips and lower back region. So this is very comfortable. I very much like lying like this. I tend to a lot when I lie like this in our attic upstairs, just because there's not enough room to lie in normal semi-supine or constructive rest. I have to, for space-saving reasons, just hook my legs over the spare bed. And I'm perfectly happy to do so. Now, there's another advantage of doing that, that one of the other alternatives is to actually bring your feet to the edge, if it's something very sturdy like a sofa or a bed, and rest them like this. Now what I'm going to do is that, because this stool isn't going to stay there, I'm going to show you alternative B, which is related. So if I come all the way up to the wall and do the same, grab this one, it'll do, and put my feet flat on the wall, it gives you the effect of almost being in a squat, and it really helps you to release out of the lower back into the back of the hamstrings, around the glutes. Now if I try to get a little closer still, without knocking my picture off the wall, now I get into an even more squatting-like position. Now squats are great for the lower back, and the problem with them for most people is they've lost the ability to do so. So they feel like they're struggling with their balance coordination, so the first thing they do, of course, is react to that, so they tighten. So you're not getting the opportunity to release into the direction you're being offered through this stretch. So you're not dealing with your balance coordination, and if you're particularly tight in this area, your full body weight going through into a full squat might be too strong for you, and you might end up reacting to that. And again, you'll be basically tightening rather than releasing. So this is a nice way to get the benefit of a squat without it being too strong, and without you dealing with your balance coordination. And this is really good for the lower back. Go gently with it if you're not used to it. You can go further away from the wall. Another alternative still is legs all the way up the wall. I can't do it with this leg because there's a picture in the way in the wall. But if I might just be able to do it. No, I can't. But you get the idea. That can be a very strong stretch though if you're not careful. So I would recommend being careful with that one, the legs straight up the wall, because you don't want to overdo it. I should have probably got up there a little more cautiously, but I was a bit confined for space. So those are the basic principles. There's not a lot to it. It's not designed to be clever. It's true to say that time is an ingredient, and you do want to just take your time with it and allow things to change. And then when you're ready, you just get up and go about your day. Although, ideally, you won't. Ideally, you'd want to take this new quality that you've hopefully encouraged from a constructive rest and test it. What do I mean by test it? Well, in the Alexander technique, what we do to test that is we use sitting and standing as a generic movement metaphor. Even sitting standing as a coordination is enough for most people, it seems, to slightly interfere and get in the way of themselves. So because you've down-regulated, you're quieter, maybe you release some muscles, you want to see if you can take that into movement. So I do have my stool here, so what I could do is just come to my stool and I just use this quietness and this new release to say, can I take this into movement? Bit low here, aren't I? And if you're not familiar with this sitting standing procedure, I think I've got a video on it somewhere. There's plenty of other books on it. But you want to make sure you don't, I say books, videos on it. If you want me to, I'll do another one on it, but I think I've actually got an old one on this already. You want to make sure you're not pulling on your necks. That nice sense of length we achieved on the table, the head forward and up as we say, can we keep that as I go to stand and keep the quiet within myself that I'm not reacting in some way. So the quiet I have on the table is a quiet that I can take into movement. And that's the real benefit of doing it. Yes, it's somewhat remedial and there's nothing wrong with that to have a nice lie down. But what you want to know is once you have and you've taken off some of that reactivity and muscle tension, is you can then take that quality into movement. Otherwise, you're just going to go on and reintegrate your old tension habits with the same patterns of behaviour that integrated them in those tension habits in the first place. So it's always good to test it. If you happen to do other activities, maybe you do yoga, it's a really nice idea to do this before your yoga. And then when you do your yoga, you can say, can you carry all this quality through? Even if you're a runner, you could do the same. You could just lie down for say 10-15 minutes, get yourself nice and released, and then see if you can take that release into a good running form. Okay, so I think that's covered everything I can possibly cover today on the matter. It's like I say, it's not rocket science. So my name's been Adrian. If you're interested in Alexander lessons, do get in touch. I also teach online, and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.